Pylopagurus operculatus. Stimson, 1859. Family Paguridae. This medium-sized species is striking in the field in both its coloration and speed of movement. The ambulatories and the minor cheliped are bright orange-red, while the major manus is white and the major carpus and meris are reddish with white spots. Several specimens of a color variant were collected in which the entire major cheliped was white and the minor spotted with white. Pylopagurus operculatus is a very rapidly moving hermit crab. It was the only species in which specimens escaped after being observed. Crabs were collected in open waters, with good circulation down to 5 meters. It was found only in areas with a substrate covered with large or medium-sized rocks, or with coral formations containing crevices. During the day, crabs are found only under rocks or coral formations. Specimens were collected in Pescadero Bay Channel, the entrance to Sponce Water, Versen Bay, and Boca St. Mihiel. In the artificial rock piles at St. Mihiel, Pylopagurus operculatus generally occurred deeper within the pile than Pagurus pygmaeus, which in turn was generally below the main population of Pagurus miamensis. However, all 3 species did overlap, and the rapid retreating ability of operculatus could have contributed to the depth at which it was found. During the day, this species remains hidden from view beneath rocks and/or coral formations. Around 1800 hours, individuals begin to move out from beneath the rocks. As the light level decreases, these crabs, and moray eels, become more active and begin feeding. Feeding is done almost exclusively with the minor cheliped. The much larger major cheliped is used almost solely in aggressive interactions. The sexual behavior of the species was not observed. The rapid locomotor ability of Pylopagurus operculatus mentioned above is correlated with several factors. The ambulatory legs are relatively slender and longer than those of many species. Secondly, when running, individuals of Pylopagurus operculatus lift their shell completely off of the substratum. This behavior is not common in any other species observed, although Pagurus bonarensis does do this at times. The aggressive repertoire of Pylopagurus operculatus is complex in the movements of both the ambulatories and the chelipeds. The chelipeds are used more frequently in aggressive interactions. The more common ambulatory movement is the ambulatory raise. This movement brings the appendage just about to the horizontal, although the dactyl is inclined down about 15 degrees. The movement upward, through about 45 degrees, takes 0.24 to 0.30 seconds. The downward motion takes only 0.18 seconds. During this behavior pattern, the ambulatory is moved forward about 20 degrees in rising and back while being lowered. The second type of ambulatory movement, called the ambulatory poke, occurred rarely. It was executed only 5 times in 1,030 interactions, in comparison with 209 standard ambulatory raises. In the execution of this behavior, the limb is raised only about 15 to 25 degrees upward, but is moved forward about 60 degrees toward the eye stalk mouth region of the other crab. The cheliped presentation behavior pattern is similar to that of Pagurus marschi, except that the major dactyl is not held open. The minor cheliped extension moves that appendage through an arc of a little over 90 degrees toward a horizontal position. The most common movement of the aggressive repertoire of Pylopagurus operculatus is the standard major cheliped extension, which occurred 563 times in 1,030 interactions. It is a very rapid, forceful movement. Crabs are often physically knocked several centimeters away by an extension. The cheliped is moved through about 140 degrees to a position about 15 degrees below the horizontal. The plane of the major manus in the raised position is diagonal rather than perpendicular to the sagittal plane. The upward motion takes 0.06 to 0.12 seconds, and the limb is moved down in 0.06 to 0.18 seconds. The movements involved comprise the fastest aggressive display of those observed in the species studied. The complete behavior may be executed in 0.12 seconds. During several long, intense aggressive interactions, a second type of extension movement of the major cheliped was observed. This was an overhand side arm movement, which tended to bring the cheliped over the other crab's cheliped when the latter was in a presentation position. The cheliped was moved forward partially, at an angle away from the midline, then raised above the horizontal. It was rapidly brought down and forward toward the eye stalk mouth region of the other crab. Occasionally, long standoffs occurred with both crabs pushing against the other's major manus. Displacement feeding movements sometimes occurred at such times. Whenever a Pylopagurus operculatus pulls back into its shell, the major manus is not pulled down far, but blocks the aperture near the entrance or just below. In any interaction, the major manus prevents any intrusion into the shell aperture, and short, rapid outward movements of the withdrawn crab's chela appear to discourage any aggressive crab. The dislodging shaking motions of Pylopagurus operculatus are more noticeable in this species than the other species observed. When one crab crawls on the back of the shell of another, the first few movements are not markedly different from the side-to-side and or rotating motions of Pagurus marshi. However, if these do not dislodge the offending individual, the crawled-upon crab moves very rapidly vertically as it twists from side to side. This upward motion, which almost always throws the other crab off, is sometimes so violent that the behaving crab itself is thrown off the substratum and may land upside down on the sand. The shell-fighting behavior generally follows the Pagurid pattern, with an additional element introduced by the position and movement of the major cheliped. After positioning behavior, spasmodic shaking follows. However, during this, the major dactyl is moved back and forth and slightly up and down, just inside the aperture of the defending crab. These movements back and forth of the major dactyl by an attacking crab appeared to touch the major dactyl of the defender, as well as the sides of the shell aperture. Movements of the major cheliped did not occur with every series of spasmodic shaking. The chelipeds of the interacting crabs do not interlock or touch as a losing crab comes out of its shell. The dial variation in activity is shown in Figure 28. The nocturnal crepuscular pattern of the behavior patterns was maintained clearly under laboratory conditions. Figure 28. Dial variation in activities of Pylopagurus operculatus. All activities nocturnal with crepuscular peaks.